Here it is, the Bakotunes podcast with Matt Munoz. Audio brought to you by Chain Cone Clark.
Greetings and thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Bakotunes podcast. Today's episode features Shannon Harris, vocalist for the band Spike 1000. If you were one of the thousands of teens and college kids in Bakersfield, California during the late 80s into the 90s, there were a handful of bands that everybody will remember, including... Go ahead and shout out the names of the band you remember here and I'll let you know if I recognize any names. Oh yeah, Too Lazy to Steal, Jumping Trains, Haasbruten, Steel Rage, and Sex Art, of course. Lots of memories and lots of cool bands like Burning Image, Primer Grey, Cradle of Thorns, and of course my guest powerhouse vocalist Shannon Harris and her band Spike 1000, who stand out particularly because of their role during my introduction into Bakersfield's independent music scene and the formation of my own band Mento Brew in 1992. If the name Spike 1000 sounds familiar, it's probably because you're either from Bakersfield, from the Bay Area, and or a fan of nu metal and familiar with their major label debut Waste of Skin that featured a pair of singles heard briefly in rotation on your local rock station. If none of that applies to you, just sit back and enjoy the ride because Shannon and I cover a lot of ground in music. Seriously, a lot of ground in music. Get ready for some deep diving into the Bakersfield music scene and beyond with Shannon Harris from Spike 1000 here on the Bakotunes podcast, dedicated to all my homies from back in the day. So Shannon Harris of the globally renowned Spike 1000. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. You know, for people that are just tuning in, Shannon and I know each other, full disclosure, because we are, you know, we're cut from the same music scene, the Bakersfield music scene. And myself as a music journalist, as a music historian, as a music geek, there are certain bands that kind of stick out from your own personal history because, and we're going to address a lot of things in this interview. So if you are a Spike 1000 fan and you only know them from the Waste of Skin era towards, you know, the end, early 2000s to the mid 2000s, it kind of seems like it just kind of all flashed right by before our eyes. You know, you're going to really dig this interview. So we're going to start from the top. I'm sure I wasn't the first to point this out to you, but the Spike 1000 bio written by some writer, I don't know who he is, Jason Anderson at allmusic.com says you were formed, and I quote this, you were formed in the early 90s in KORN's hometown of Stockton, California.
Yeah. I laughed when I saw that. I'm like, really, dude? Seriously? Okay. All right.
Yeah, I mean, I could have sworn you were from Bakersfield. I mean, who's correct here? Do you have any connection to Stockton whatsoever? Just, you're on the record right now. Have you ever even been to Stockton?
Oh, yeah. I used to work in Stockton, but no musical connection whatsoever.
We got to fire Jason. Hopefully he's not writing somewhere. If he is, he's gone back and learned about the rules of journalism, accuracy. If you're not sure, you know, you can find it. If I was able to find Shannon online, you should be able to and say, hey, I'm sorry. So maybe you'll get an apology after they listen to this. Anyway. Anyway, so it's great to talk to you, Shannon. God, it has been, I can't even remember. So hopefully by the end of this interview, we're going to kind of be able to do the math together. I just really want to start from the top. I am recording this live from your hometown of Bakersfield, and specifically probably your old neighborhood of East Bakersfield. Are you? Yeah. Are you a full-blooded East Bakersfieldian?
Yes, I am full-blooded. Graduated from East Bakersfield and lived in East Bakersfield all of the time that I was in Bakersfield.
It's amazing how much talent has come out of East Bakersfield, and they always talk about Oildale and all that stuff. This is definitely going to be a fans episode, myself included. So if any fans of Spike 1000 are listening, you're going to get like the really, really deep dive story. But what kind of kid were you growing up in East Bakersfield?
Growing up in East Bakersfield, you know, I went to Washington Junior High.
Okay. Yeah, all right.
The Hornets.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When we moved to Bakersfield, that's where I started school, Washington Junior High. And I moved from a beach town to Bakersfield. It was a big change, and I learned a lot in Washington Junior High, 7th and 8th grade. And, you know, I learned about the Lomita Bakers. I learned about Miller's Outpost and going and watching fights behind the Miller's Outpost.
Well, hold on one second. Where are you originally from? Where did you come from?
I was born in Australia.
Really?
Yeah. I was born in Australia.
What part of Australia?
in a town called Narrabri, New South Wales. Yeah.
Did not know that. Did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow. So you're a full-blooded Aussie, but you were adopted by the beautiful East Bakersfield crowd. I mean, definitely what a culture shock. So you came over here when you were a little kid, like a baby, or like a preteen?
I came to the States when I was 4.
Oh,
and we moved from New Mexico to California, and then I moved around California, a couple of different towns before we settled in Bakersfield when I was in 7th grade, starting junior high.
Wow. How did you end up over? Your parents working, or they just,
Yeah, my dad worked for, when he got back to the States and we moved to California, he worked with the 2 brothers who started Grimway Farms.
Yeah.
Sure you're familiar. Yeah. So he started with them, ground zero, and worked with them for years and years, and moved with them when they started new processing plants. And so because they moved around, our family moved around. And when they opened up their plant in Bakersfield, that's where we landed and stayed for most part of my life.
I could have had an entire page of questions based on the Australian thing. Have you been back since then? I mean, do you have any sort of familial connection over there, down there?
Yeah, absolutely. I do. I have a nephew over there with his kids and his grandkid, and I absolutely want to go back one day. Hopefully within the next 5 years, we'll have a chance to go back there and I can see where I was born and visit with family. It'll be good.
A lot of my friends, or just people that I've gotten to know over the years a little bit more personally, and they always say, oh yeah, I'm from Bakersfield and all this stuff, but it's not like they just kind of ended up in Bakersfield. And for you to come all the way from Australia over here, I had no idea, because for me, all I knew was like Shannon Harris, Spike 1000, they're all East Bakersfield connected, just like KORN, and and the list goes on and on. It always seems like East Bakersfield is the one thing that everybody had, in common. Mm-hmm. Before we get into more of the history, was Spike 1000 your first band?
No, wasn't my first band.
What was your first band?
Probably, as far as a rock band is concerned, I think it was my second, I want to say. And forgive me, I don't remember the name of that first band. I remember we did covers, and I think I was still in high school, and the guitar player was the same guitar player that played in Lily Cigar, and I can't remember his name.
Okay, I can remember him, blonde dude. I just remember the other members. I remember Jeremiah and Dave Gillette.
Yep.
And Jordan, rest in peace. He's no longer with us, drummer. Okay.
I can't remember. Yeah.
So Spike 1000 is your second band.
Second band. But I've been singing since I was very small.
This is definitely coming from a more of a personal experience of what I saw. The all ages music scene in Bakersfield during the early 80s, to mid 90s was one of the kind of, the way I've always told people, it's kind of like the last blast of a period where everything was truly word of mouth. You formed a band if you were, young and you wanted to get into a band, to, everything from forming a band to booking your first show, making flyers at Kinko's at all hours of the day, Yeah, you know what I mean? Now today, young musicians have so much technology that everything from finding musicians and even vetting those musicians is as easy as just a few clicks. You can, before we would find the musicians, I think they're going to work, but then you didn't know anything about their past. And by the time you got to like the band's already solid, you're like, oh man, we don't want to have this person in the band anymore. Now they have social networking and all that stuff. Let's just jump right into it. How did the original Spike 1000 find its way together, and who was in the original lineup?
Okay, so I'll start with the original lineup.
Okay.
Originally, I wasn't actually asked to be in the band. So it was Frank Gamino on bass, Richard Jasmine on guitar, Bill Thompson, guitar, Jeff Jones, drums. And those 4 guys were forming a band. And they were looking at the local scene, and they saw a band and they had a lead singer, and the lead singer was Noah Glass. They said to themselves, well, we want to get chicks, and this guy looks like he can get chicks. Let's ask him if he wants to be in our band. So they actually went up and talked to Noah and said, hey, are you solid with this band? Are you interested in doing something else? And I wasn't there. I guess Noah's reaction was, yeah, I'll play with you guys and see how it goes, but you have to let my girlfriend come in the band too.
Oh.
And of course they're like, what? A girl? Are you serious? No, dude, we don't want a girl in a band. So I think we went over to Frank Gamino's house. That's where I met them. Noah and I used to play acoustic guitar and write together. So Noah started playing guitar and I started singing. And I guess at that point, they decided that, okay, we'll let her tag along for a while. We'll see how this goes.
Yeah, what year was that? What kind of era was that in music? I always gauge it by the year. Were you guys in high school?
See. I was out of high school.
Okay.
I believe Noah had just graduated. I think the other boys were still in high school. So I'm going to say it may have been anywhere between 88 and 89. I'm guessing.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely a big turning point in the Bakersfield scene. 80s, and then, the 90s came in and it just kind of like changed a lot of things, and that's kind of like my introduction. These are people that I recognize the names, Richard Jasmine, and I believe he's still doing stuff. See, wasn't he playing with Power Man 5000?
I believe so.
Yeah. I do remember Frank Gamino, the bass player, and these are figures that I just kind of remember that. And then Noah Glass. So Noah Glass he's also an East Sider, East Bakersfield High School?
Yes, he graduated from East High.
All right.
Yep.
So you guys are all in East Bakersfield. There's nothing as Spike 1000 as we know it in the current state. Mostly everybody knows it now. Let's go down by the clubs, and you're going to recognize some of these names. Bam Bams. Chaos Coffee House. That was the old coffee house, which was on Chester, which is since burnt down. Like, I don't know, people have tried to burn that old building down like 3 or 4 times, and it's still standing in different. It's become a church, like a halfway house, all kinds of stuff.
Gosh.
Yeah, and it was right next door to what the old Goose Loonies used to be. They're in that kind of section, and all the other coffee houses. Because it seems like in the late '80s into the early 90s, there was all these coffee houses that were popping up all over Bakersfield. That's the earliest thing that I remember, is that there was all these coffee houses and we all hung out with our oddball personalities and we drank a lot of coffee, and, Seattle grunge and the caffeine culture was kind of moving into Bakersfield. And so, I mean, were you drinking a lot of coffee back then?
Probably. Know me. Yeah.
So much local music history, has come out of East Bakersfield, and you're going back to the golden age of rock and roll. It was like a melting pot. You got white, black, Latino, Asian, Pacific Islander, but Oildale and country music has always gotten more attention. And now everything is so well documented through social media in real time that accuracy isn't so much of a problem, because over the years, like, I've talked to different musicians from the scene, and they always talk about, oh, it was like this or it was like that. There's not a whole lot of documentation unless you had some sort of flyers and you talk to people that are actually still alive. It's sad to say that we've lost a lot of the people that we kind of came up with in the music scene around here. They've just kind of just disappeared or moved away, or they've passed away. If you were to ask 2 people about a local band from any pre-internet era, their answers are always going to vary depending on a few things, such as if they were friends with the band and still kept in touch with them, or if they were in a band themselves during this time and they're going to create their own history. Like, oh, we were the biggest band and we did all this stuff. Oh yeah, no, everybody came to see us and blah, blah, blah. Since I didn't grow up in Bakersfield or attend high school here, I didn't have the connection that most of the people in the music scene had at the time, especially like the late 80s, early 90s. But even before I got involved in the Bakersfield all ages music community, I knew who Spike 1000 was and Cradle of Thorns was, just as much as I knew who Burning Image, Primer Gray, and The Examples were, because growing up in McFarland, I would read the Bakersfield Californian. There would be maybe an under 21 columnist or something like that. Those are the independent bands of the day, so they would get some good ink. So I would see Spike 1000. I was like, these are interesting names. I'd never seen you guys. Keeping up with the bands of the 80s into the 90s time period, and then once I got into Bakersfield College and I started kind of hanging around more of the shows and meeting people, I met, Joe Vasquez, who went to East Bakersfield, and we ended up playing together. And so he's the one who would tell me, oh, well, yeah, Noah Glass was in this band, Shannon Harris, and these are all these people who I didn't know any of you. I hadn't met any of you yet. But you began to notice they all came out in the same sort of stages. You guys formed in high school or in college. You got really popular. You guys had a fan base. Everybody would ride those kind of fun 4 years until graduation. And then, they either found a way to keep going. You guys broke up, reformed. I'm only familiar with a few of the local rock groups who actually took those next steps after high school or while in college to seek, bigger success by moving towards either bigger cities or trying to really push forward to hopefully get signed. One was all the members of KORN, and that was even before Jonathan Davis joined the group.
Yep.
Cradle of Thorns and Spike 1000. What are your early memories that you remember of some of the bands in Bakersfield before you joined Spike 1000? What did I not see? Because like I said, I had a very limited experience with the local music scene until we formed Mento Buru, and then I really got into it. But other than that, I didn't know what was going on. What are some of the memories that you remember way back in the day?
Oh man, that's tough. I felt like before Spike and Cradle came onto the scene, there was more of a strong punk scene in Bakersfield, especially with Scott Strudevant's band. I don't even remember the name. Maybe it was Primer 55. There was another. That was
Big Jed and the Flatbeds.
Oh yeah, with Rory Thompson, Todd Thompson, of course. Big Jed and Flatbeds. You can't forget them.
And Mark DeLeon. I love Mark DeLeon. Haas Bruton. Yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah. I mean, he's his own scene.
Yes. Yes. The man's an island. And like I said, I think it was more of a raw punk scene before we stepped on and Cradle of Thorns. And then, when Love and Peace Dude went to LA, they were more fun rock before they moved to LA, and then things change. You get inspired by the place that you're at. So the ones that you mentioned are definitely ones I remember. I'm sure there's more, but like I said, my memory is totally shot from years of playing music.
Oh, I bet. Well, you're definitely going to have a blast. You're going to hear some blasts from the past, because I've got a lot of memories here. Now, okay, this is what I remember from the original Spike 1000 sound that I remember. It was. I mean, and don't laugh when I tell you this, but what I remember, and I can see it in my head. I can see you guys on stage, and the sound was. I guess I could call it. It was a little earthy. It was a little earthy sound.
Oh, for
at
sure.
the time. Okay.
Yep. Absolutely.
So I had that right. But it was the grunge era. So like there was slower tempo tunes, it was more melodies. I mean, it was definitely nothing close to the heaviness of your later years. I mean, there's definitely a big switch in the sound. At the time that you joined the band with Noah, what was kind of like the headspace of the band as far as the sound of Spike 1000?
Well, you're starting a band with Noah Glass and myself, who are a little bit older. Noah had so many different concepts and visions, and still is a very, very artistic person.
Stop right there. Let's just talk about Noah Glass for a little bit, because he's definitely important to the origin story, and I don't want to leave him out here. But
absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about Noah Glass, because I didn't know him at all. I knew him as a member of the group, and I knew other people that knew him, like Joe, late Joe Vasquez, who knew him. They went to school together and all that stuff. What kind of person was Noah as far as an artist? As far as an artist,
I mean, there was no boundaries when it came to Noah. Everything that he could imagine, he would. And, he kind of got put into a box of being a hippie, but I don't really think that Noah was a hippie per se, because he had some really cool ideas visually about how he wanted to present music. And he had really cool words and good stories. Those came from things that he did. I mean, he went on some pretty cool adventures as a person. He went by himself to India for a month and went through a lot there. I mean, he used to go up to the mountains, ride motorcycles, and he used to do a lot of things that would inspire him about life and people, and he would read a lot, and he would listen to lots of music. So he definitely was a trip and a lot of fun to be around in those days, for sure. Yeah,
you guys are young and free and kind of like do whatever you want. He had really long, cool blonde hair. So you already knew that he was already popular by default, right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, he didn't have long hair when I met him in high school.
Oh, that came later. So yeah, the 90s. The 90s, yeah. It's like you had to have it. That was part of the whole deal. And so, yeah, that's why I said, like, the things that I remember you guys up there together. You and Noah definitely were kind of like the focus of the band. And you had Mike on the bass.
Mike came later, though.
All right.
Yeah. So when there was Richard, Bill, Frank, and Jeff, they were younger, and they were coming from more of like the 90s. They're coming from more of the heavier side of rock, thank goodness, because that's where I came from when I was very, very young. At any rate, when we all came together to mesh, it was kind of a hodgepodge of, this visually very cool type of music, like when it comes to words and lyrics. And then we would have slow parts with acoustic guitar or weird keyboard sounds. And then, you would have the definite riff from the guitar, and you would have, Frank did a lot of slap bass, and then Jeff, was very, very inspired by Living Colour and William Calhoun, so all those different attributes made the sound that you hear in early Spike 1000.
So you have that original group.
And then there were some changes.
Yeah, but how many shows, how long did that original lineup last? You had Frank, Richard, Jeff, you, and Noah. Then what happened?
Bill.
What happened first? What was the first change?
The first change was, I believe, Richard exiting.
Okay. Had you guys played a few shows?
Yep, we played a few shows. I remember one in particular at Bakersfield High in that theater.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think I still have video of that. So that was with the original members, and I don't remember the year that Richard exited the scene, but I think he was the first that went, and that really opened up the ability of Bill to show who he was as a guitar player. That was one of the really cool things that I got to watch. I got to watch Bill as a rhythm guitar player blossom into a guitar player that I still to this day is one of my favorite guitar players.
Where did Bill come from? Was he BHS, or which high school did he go to?
No, Bill was East. He was just later. The only person that didn't go to East was Mike. Mike came from South High.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Another rough school.
Yep.
Rough. So let's go back, because I want to make sure we wrap that kind of era. So you had Frank and Richard, and how long was that unit together, that first unit?
I want to say it was probably 2 years.
Wow, you guys actually kept a band together that long in Bakersfield, that young too. That's
Yeah.
pretty amazing, because it seems like everybody, we're all so young at those times, like our attention spans were just kind of like fleeting. But like I said, we didn't have social networking back then, so we actually our attention was on what we were into. Okay, so back to the sound of the Spike 1000 that I remember. For people listening right now, music-wise, I already said it was a little earthy, but I would describe it, if you wanted to compare it to some bands of the time that were kind of really well-known, I would describe it as a cross between like Smashing Pumpkins and Blind Melon. So you had that Smashing Pumpkins kind of like good melodies, good guitars, and then sometimes you would have kind of like that sweet melody Blind Melon kind of come in. But this just what I remember, because it was the grunge era, and it was definitely the kind of entrance. So you started seeing a lot of these bands pop out, and it wasn't like we could just go put on our phone and listen to these bands like, oh, we heard about this band Spike 1000. You had to just kind of catch them where you could catch them. Now, Now, if you happen to have a copy of either Cultivation 91 compilation, local music compilation, the Cultivation 92, or the original Spike 1000 debut EP, you'll get an idea who the band was way before Waste of Skin. Because like I said, it was a completely different band, and which we'll get to that later. Now, there were 3 songs from early Spike 1000 that old schoolers will always remember. And like I said, from Cultivation 91, that was the song Sister, Sister.
Sister, sister, where have you gone? Where are you now?
In Cultivation 92, Eclipse / Dubfire.
Uh-huh.
For today,
And from the EP, Who Saw the Flowers? Those are the 3 songs that I always remember. Do you remember those songs?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I remember.
Which one was your favorite? Which one was your favorite?
Out of the ones you've mentioned?
Yeah. Sister, Sister, Eclipsed of Fire, and Who Saw the Flowers?
Oh, it's tough. It's going to be between Sister, Sister and Eclipse Fire. And simply because with Sister, Sister, vocally it was a lot of fun. And plus one time when my folks lived up in up Caliente Walker Basin, and apparently my older brother gave my dad some mushrooms. And he ended up, he was on the porch. My mom told me, I wasn't there. He was on the porch sitting there on mushrooms, and he was pointing up to the stars and singing Sister, Sister. So that always stays in my head. So I'm always going to love that song. But Eclipse Fire, that was the first song that I can remember Bill actually came out and produced a wonderful bit of lead guitar in between, the verses or in the breakdown. And I just loved it. And I kept, wanting him to keep growing and pushing more and exploring that. It's a toss up between those two.
Yeah, no, those are great songs, especially for young bands. I'll always go back and listen to like early stuff. I think every musician, artist does, and they go back to listen to some of the stuff that they did early on. Some stuff just doesn't age well because, we were kids and we're kind of like finding our way. And I can tell now after, talking to you so far that you guys were already kind of a little bit, you weren't so young. So you guys weren't like, oh, we just learned our instruments like, 5 months ago when we decided to form a band and go into the recording studio. I mean, you guys were actually kind of like already kind of had some years under you, a solid unit as a Spike 1000 that I remember. And then I could see a reason why so many kids were so drawn to you at the time, because you guys were kind of like a thing in the 90s. I mean, it was definitely a thing. But you know what? It was your voice that everyone remembers the most. I mean, that's what I remember the most about Spike 1000 is the Shannon Harris voice. I mean, even to this day, there hasn't been another vocalist that's coming out, at least at Bakersfield. And I'm just talking from a homeboy from the same scene. Like, this music scene hasn't had another vocalist kind of personality like you. Everybody was drawn to you, myself included, because I wasn't from here, but I was like, wow, there's this cool chick and she's singing, man, and this band is fucking badass. Everybody was into you. The guys were into you because, they liked the band and they liked the music and all that stuff. But, we're all young and we're looking at you, and then, the chicks thought you were fucking kick ass. There
weren't a lot of, aside from Tamra and Critical Thorns, there weren't any other girls at that point that were, I'm sure there were girls in bands, but they weren't out playing yet, I don't believe.
No, there definitely wasn't. I mean, there was kind of like the rock and the old school era, but as far as the young groups that at the age ranges that we were when we were coming into that independent music scene, post, disco, funk and all that stuff, because there was a lot of those bands that were kind of existing in the the clubs that were kind of, this was pre Bam Bams. I mean, by the time Bam Bams came around, a lot of people don't realize this. They know that there's a lot of underage music clubs now, but at the time, there was only one place to go, and it was Bam Bams. That's where all the kids went. That's where all the cool kids went from all the high schools. And it wasn't always one of the most friendly places to go, because you had a kind of the clash of all the different personalities and cultures. You had your punks, you had your rockers, you had your gay kids. You had even some of the neo-Nazis that were coming in from Oildale. I mean, it was just kind of like a hodgepodge of everything. So sometimes everybody's paths would cross, and it was just like, everybody just kind of minded their own business. But then there was other times that things got really, really rough. Am I right on that? Do you remember some of those memories?
Yes, yeah. I do.
Yeah.
I do. I remember one moment, Chaos, we were playing, and I don't think it was a clash of cultures. It was just a fight that broke out, and I always would want to stop the fights. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't want to egg them on because I don't like fighting, for one thing. But I stopped playing, and the band stopped playing, and then I told the people, I go, you guys just get out of here. Just go. Get out of here. And, of course, they start coming towards our gear. And poor Bill had to, go over by his stack and try and not have it be damaged. It did get knocked over and everything. So, yeah, I remember some crazy stuff, even in the Bam Bam's time, too.
John Bentley, who owned Bam Bam's, and then it became Mars and then the Zoo, changed the name. Business owners back then and still today, they change the names for different reasons, legal or whatever. But he's actually still around. There was a time for years where he had reopened the old Mexican movie theater in Delano, in downtown Delano, and he had opened up that place up, and I think he was living in it. And if he comes across
kidding.
Yeah, if he comes across this podcast and he finds me because I know we're connected somehow, and I get it wrong. I remember, and he was gonna try to like reopen like the Bam Bams thing over there, but the location of Bam Bams as we knew it is, of course, it's no longer there. The parking lot is now where Downtown Elementary is, and the parking lot was where all the action went down. But the location where Bam Bams was is now on the corner of 20th and M Street. I believe the building is split. It's like a baseball card collector's shop. There's definitely not much of a trace of any of that old thing. And like I said, unless you were there, all you could do is just kind of, you're going to create your own history. And we saw a bunch of crazy stuff. I want to get back to your voice because I want to know where that voice came from. First of all, I want to know who you were listening to growing up as a young woman. Like, kind of music were you listening to?
When we lived in Australia, I even remember this, even when I was around 4. I had an older brother, 10 years older than me, when I was around 3 or 4, because he's 13, 14. And he used to take the speakers and put them about 12 inches apart and throw a blanket over it and then turn up the music really loud. And at that time, he was into bands like Slade, Gary Glitter,
Glam,
all the stuff glam. And then he started getting into, of course, Nazareth and Black Oak, Arkansas, and some really cool bands. I followed suit when it came to listening to music, and I started listening to the music that he did. Fast forward to us coming to the States, I remember we lived in Irvine, California. I was in the back of Mom's Blazer when there was no seatbelts or anything. I was just chilling in the back, and she put on KMET, the radio station, and I think it was around 1974, and I heard Running with the Devil, and it blew my mind. And I told myself at that moment, I want to do this. I want to make loud, hard, heavy music like this. This is really cool. And so I went through so many different stages of music. I love all kinds of different music. But what really started to hone me as I became a teenager and grew into a young woman, I listened to stuff my folks did, like Willie Nelson, Judy Garland, Barbra Streisand. I would sit in front of their stereo and I would listen, I'd put on the record on the old record player, right? And I would take the actual album cover and I would sing songs, and I would fan it in front of my face as I would sing, because it would give me sort of like a little reverb type thing, and I loved it.
Yeah.
And my mom has been a waitress all her life, and I used to go and sing in the restaurant bars that she would work in. I would go up and join the bands and sing 2 John Denver songs, and that was my thing that I would do. So I've been influenced by lots and lots of different music throughout my life. But I think where a lot of my voice, they call me a belter because I'm loud and I don't have a lot of finesse when I sing.
But you do. That's what I'm saying. Of like the Spike 1000 that a lot of people mostly know is the more aggressive Spike 1000. But if you were here in Bakersfield in the early days, the Spike 1000 that I know is definitely a lot more melodic, and you still hear a lot of that in some of the recordings. You just have to really pay attention to it. So that's what I was always curious. I'm like, were you really drawn to heavy music, or were you listening to a lot of I know now because you just told me, but like, I didn't want to make any assumptions as to what I thought you might have been listening to at the time. Like, were you listening to metal? Like, you like Van Halen, but you're also listening to show tunes that requires, that brings a lot of melodics and a lot of showbiz and the pizzazz
the
and
Judy
all that,
Garland
the razzle dazzle and all that stuff to it. So the combination of everything. I mean, were you really digging into the whole metal thing back then?
No, not back then. I mean, as far as, I wouldn't call Van Halen, early Aerosmith,
just rock and roll.
I wouldn't call them metal. It's just rock and roll. I was listening to rock and roll in addition to, folks like Roberta Flack, Judy Garland, Lena Horne, the Belters, the ones, and Barbra Streisand, of
pop
course.
Singers, really good pop singers.
Well, yeah, and also the women that had a lot of feeling. I mean, if you ever listen to Roberta Flack, you feel the song. And the way that she would sing totally kind of, you get chills and you get teary. And so all of those things coming together, I think really helped form this fire inside of my voice that wanted to sing. And anytime I sang, I felt really good.
Did anybody ever mention there's something about your voice? I mean, you have a very unique voice. You can go from the very melodic and the very, very sweet, but there's a kind of like an underlying power. It's hard to explain it. There's different parts to your voice where you can be very sweet and melodic, and then you could be very, very almost like I don't want to say husky voice, but it could be so aggressive that it borderlines that it could kind of go into the huskiness, but you don't have like a big, you don't have like a raspy voice or anything like that. You just have a very aggressive voice. Like I could see the microphones, them having to control the microphones because they probably clip a lot with your voice. Yeah. I mean, did anybody ever say like, you have kind of like, I would say like when the first time people started hearing Tina Turner and they're like, you know, your voice doesn't really match who I'm looking at. Has anybody ever told you that? Did they ever tell you that in the early days? Like, your voice doesn't really match you when I see you. I never expected you to sound like this.
Yeah, I've heard that on several occasions.
Your family, or was it people in the community or teachers?
No, it was people. It would be people that would see us live and then see me on the streets and go, it doesn't seem like that voice should come out of you. You don't seem like that person when you're on stage, when you're just walking down the street.
It's the thing that I always remember is your voice. Kudos to you. Wonderful voice. Beautiful voice.
Thank you.
Now I have 4 Spike 1000 live memories that stick out, and 3 of them which involved gigs that our bands did together, Mento Brewer and Spike 1000. We just happened to be on these bills together back in those early days. Now the first one is 1992 at the Kern County Fairgrounds. It was the Radio Rain Dance. It was supposed to be a fundraiser for the CSUB radio station that, of course, never happened. There was already a buzz about the band, but as you started to play, I mean, the kids are going bananas, you know, and then all of a sudden, I remember looking out to the side, and there was these giant paper mache art heads on poles with like connected by some sort of drape where they were walked out into the audience. I mean, did I describe that visual correct?
Yeah, you did. Yeah, I remember we would make those before the show.
And whose idea was it to do that? Were you a bunch of art students or art geeks, or were you just kids?
No,
you know,
that was all Noah. Like I said, he really liked to present things visually interesting to people. So he came up with that concept, and we all brought it to fruition and made them.
You guys, the band did them, or did you guys have a little fan
No, we
base?
made them.
Really?
Nope, we made them. We made them, and you know, I would dye the sheets, and we would put them all together, and then we would have folks that like the band handle them and logistically work them in the crowd.
Yeah, and one thing I remember, I remember when they all came out. You guys all came into the stage. You guys were on the stage playing, and then the paper mache heads on the poles started coming out. And I remember, of course, as always happens, the kids start trying to grab at them, and you know they start kind of like waving around, and you know, like somebody's all, "Hey man, get the fuck away from us, man! We're just trying to hold these things," you know, and everybody's trying to mosh and shit, you know. And it reminded me of that scene in U2 Under a Blood Red Sky where Bono brings out the flag and he's I remember that scene when the flag, or he's supposed to do Sunday Bloody Sunday, and all of a sudden he puts it out there, and of course they start grabbing it and start like throwing it all over the place. He's all, "Stop."
Just hold it.
Yeah, just hold it
for a second. Yeah.
So everybody's going crazy. That's the first time I saw you guys. Like I said, I knew who Spike 1000 was just through word of mouth, Cradle of Thorns. I hadn't seen you guys. So I got to see you guys. You know, we got to kind of have our introduction into the scene. I remember there was Too Lazy to Steal.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, with, you know, Annie Zepeda and everything like that. And Lily Cigar was there. It was a moment in time that, yeah, you just had to be there because there's not a whole lot of documentation of that scene. So when you try to tell people, these kids today, about how the 90s music scene was like, yeah, we actually got to do shows at the Kern County Fairgrounds on the Budweiser Pavilion, and we didn't have to wait until the fair. Like everybody
we didn't.
Yeah.
You know, and we had the backing, you know, of Kirk and Brent, those wonderful brothers,
Sound,
you know,
who are a big part of the story.
ICL.
Big part of the story.
Absolutely. Huge part of the story. Those guys. Yep.
Now, with the Radio Rain Dance, I heard 2 stories about what happened to the money made that day, because it was packed with kids. And I've been able to find some photos, probably some Bakersfield College photography students that took some photos. And I have one photo of our performance over there, but it's from a distance. But you could see all the kids out there. Now, I tried to find out, like, whatever happened to the money. One story that I heard was that it was embezzled by the show organizer, Eric Ott. However, which is not true. Because I asked him about it some years ago. He actually came to do, you know, he went on to be like a really well-known poet. He was on the Def Comedy Slam, not Def Comedy, Def Poetry Slam. You know, when they used to have all those on HBO, it was like Def Comedy. And he came out as I was kind of big Papa something. Anyway, he came out, then we connected somehow, and he did a spoken word show with a bunch of other slam poets over at Barnes & Noble, and he was really good.
Mm-hmm.
But I asked him about that, and he's all, no. That is totally not true. But I do remember when he was writing the under 21 column for the Bakersfield Californian, and I get it, as apparently he had a falling out with the band or somebody in the band, and he called you guys the lawn darts. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I'm going way, way back. And then I remember that somebody in the band went and found him and like beat him up or something like that. And I was like, I wonder who beat him up. Is that true?
That had to have been the time that Mike was in the band, and the only person that would beat people up in the band was Mike.
He did this thing about the lawn darts, and like if anybody's listening to this, yeah,
I have no idea what happened to the money, and I have no idea if I can't remember. If we got Mike on the phone, he would know if he beat up Eric Ott or not.
Yeah, he
remembers.
Yeah, yeah. The other story is that it is safe in a bank account at CSUB, and it's just sitting there. I mean, and it was actually one of the journalism instructors who was my when I went to CSUB. I had posted something about it, that I had heard that whatever happened to the money from all this, and I think it was Judith Pratt, my old comm instructor. She said, "Oh no, that money is actually, they still have the money, and supposedly, and I could be wrong about this, but it's supposedly safe in a bank account at CSUB." I say they just take the money and all the interest, that is accumulated, just give it to all us musicians, right? Just give it to us. I doubt that radio station.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's accumulated any interest.
I know. They're like, no, it's in an envelope. It's in an envelope in like a little security box under somebody's desk or something like that.
So I'm being interrupted, Matt. I just have to say hi from my 17-year-old daughter. She wants me to tell you hello.
Oh, hi. Hi. How's it going?
She says hi. How are you? She's great.
Excellent. Okay, so the EP comes out in 1992. You get your first EP.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I remember that was a really big deal, especially because most of the bands at that time, my band included, we were barely releasing cassette demos, and anything that we could afford. I mean, like, we'll get this cassette out, and we'll dub them at our parents like receiver or something, and everything sounded really crappy. But if you had a CD, I mean, a boom. I mean, that was a really big deal. And the one thing I remember also, and I know you're going to remember this, but is that those billboards in East Bakersfield that were painted said Spike 1000 CD out now in like pink paint or white paint on those.
Paint.
Yeah, on like those abandoned billboards in East Bakersfield. Now, who painted those?
We did. Yeah, we went rogue one night and decided to do it, and it was crazy. I remember almost dying at one of them, the one at where you get on the freeway at Union, right there by Smith Bakery.
Yeah, that's the one I remember.
We did one right there, and I think the cops came or someone was screaming at us, and so we had to jump into the canal, and you didn't know what was in the canal right by that old ice factory.
Yeah,
we did it. We did them ourselves.
Yeah,
we went rogue.
Everybody who's listening, this is a true story. At the time of Spike 1000, like I said, if you were an all ages music fan at the time, you're under 21, there was bands that you followed, and like I said, Spike 1000 was definitely one of the ones that was at the top of the heap. And at the time that they were coming out with their CD in 1992, their self-titled EP, if you drove around East Bakersfield, you just one afternoon you saw these abandoned billboards with like they were painted Spike 1000 CD out now. I think that's what it said, or it just said Spike 1000 CD now or out, whatever. And it was
you know who has pictures of that is Rebecca. She took pictures of them.
Okay,
we could definitely find out for sure what they said.
I'll find out from her. That was everywhere. It was causing all the rage, and it just added more to like, this is the coolest band in Bakersfield. Look at the stuff that they're doing. And so you guys are getting bigger and bigger on a local level. Okay, there was another one of the big memories I remember from Spike 1000. Now, the second time I saw you play, it may have been the same year, but it was another band that our band's together, and it was on the campus at CSUB during the Greek Week when the fraternities used to put together all.
Yep, I remember that show. I remember it.
Now, you guys played on some sort of like, it was like a homemade wooden stage. Like it was made out of 2x4s and stuff. And I remember thinking it was going to collapse. Like
it was 2-story. Yeah, I thought it was too.
Yeah.
It was scary.
That was wild. I was like, man, that thing is totally going to fall, man. And I remember, and it was all the kids, everybody was there. And it was there. I remember watching you guys may have played a that was called Grape.
Uh-huh.
And that was the one
We
that,
always played great.
yeah, it started a mosh pit. And that was the first time I saw like this band actually started a mosh pit.
Yeah.
What do you remember from that show?
I just remember the structure and how I thought I'm going to die tonight because this thing's going to collapse. I don't necessarily remember the mosh pit, but if you say it was there, I'm going to believe you.
I'm telling you, I have an elephant memory. I remember all these things. I could still see it. I could still see it in my head. And I was like, wow, like, because still mosh pits, they were still kind of fairly new. You had a circle pits if you were into punk and all that stuff. But if you went to like shows that weren't punk, if there was a mosh pit, wow, like the whole grunge kind of that whole thing had arrived, really started to influence the young bands that were coming out. At this time, this was the group that we all know, right? So there was Mike and there was Bill. There was you, Noah. And Jeff, correct?
Yep.
What was the status of the band at that time? Because it just seems like things started to change from there. Were you guys all getting along, or was there kind of like one leader that kind of controlled the direction of what the band was going to be doing?
I think at that point we had moved towards Noah was always a very strong presence in the band. And I think that a lot of people felt like he was the leader, but we all contributed no matter what anyone thinks. We all contributed, but Noah definitely seemed like a big presence in the band, and he was. But I think at that point we were kind of wondering, what do we do next? What's our next step? Do we stay here, big fish in a little pond, and do we move to LA? Do we move somewhere else? Because we wanted to do bigger things and try and see if we could write more music together and become successful. I don't think we were fighting at all. I just think we were ready to take another step.
When did Noah just leave the band, or how did you guys part ways?
We moved as a band to San Francisco instead of moving to Los Angeles.
When did you guys move over there? When did you guys move to San Francisco?
I want to say, because I graduated CSUB, we had to wait until I graduated and then we moved. Pretty sure it was 93. We moved up to San Francisco.
The entire band?
And the entire band. We all moved into, what was like, it was a really cool spot. Just, it was not in a very safe area. We moved to Oakland and we moved down by High Street, and the place was totally gated off. But it was a 2-story, and the first part of the building of your apartment was 2 rooms, a kitchen, bathroom, a little sound room, and then a rehearsal studio. So it was really actually very cool for a band to live in. But there was a lot of us. So that's where we first moved when we moved up to the Bay Area and started to, write more and trying to establish ourselves in a new spot.
Let me go back a little bit, because I remember working with Bill at Music Plus at Ming Avenue. He was actually the manager. He was very cool, and he was there when I first started. He had this long hair, and he was really funny. Everybody loved him. It was like, Bill. He was definitely a jokester. He was always doing pranks.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody was saying, oh, man, if you were here when Bill did this and this and that and blah, blah, blah. One time I remember he followed out some gangbanger. That store on Ming Avenue was just getting ripped off all the time. It was like gangster rap was really popular at the time. And so like kids from West High would come over there and steal. We had all the beepers on everything in cassettes, and it was just a wild time. He followed some gangbanger outside who was stealing from the store, and he just kind of like transformed from like nice Bill to like, come on, motherfucker. You want some shit? You want some shit, man? Come on then. Come on. And I remember that guy, yeah, that gangbanger was just like, kind of just looked at him and like, holy shit, man, what the fuck happened to this guy?
You don't want to mess with him.
Yeah.
He wasn't scared of people because, he's a black belt. I'm sure he was ready.
Yeah, that's crazy. Okay, so I knew Bill, and like we didn't spend a whole lot of like when we would work together, like we knew that we were in bands and all this stuff, and we were doing this stuff, like, but we didn't really spend a lot of time talking about it. We were always just kind of like, we were young and we were just kind of like doing our things. With Noah still in the band, all moved to San Francisco, and you said 93?
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys are doing that stuff, and then when does Noah leave?
I had to have been around 90, right in the early 95. And we actually asked him to leave so we could go on and do some things that we want to do. I think we were ready to part ways.
Were you guys not a couple anymore? Or
no, we were not a couple anymore. It had been a while. since then, since we've been a couple.
You guys are still all committed. So
Yeah,
what did he do?
absolutely.
Where did he go after that? I mean, did he come back to Bakersfield or?
Oh no. He stayed in San Francisco. He did his own thing. I don't think that Noah ever got into another band. I think, he was still musical, but then, he definitely went on his own path.
I do know that he has his own story, that he was involved with a lot of tech stuff. He has a story attached to like the origins of Google.
He has origins of Twitter.
Origins of Twitter. Okay.
Yep.
It was one of those social networking things, but I knew. So
Yep.
another Bakersfield boy does good. It's just one of those names who it just kind of pops up every once in a while. And for some reason, he will always still be forever be connected to Spike 1000. That's how I always
Absolutely.
know when other people know him from
Yep.
Twitter. So, okay.
Break time. We'll be back. It's the Bakotunes podcast with Matt Munoz.
So let's get back to San Francisco. You guys are in San Francisco. Now, there's a third time that I remember you guys coming back to Bakersfield to do like a homecoming show. I don't know, because I actually found the ticket stub, which I posted, and I tagged you in it. And the show says, it's a homecoming show at the Castle Royale. This is the third time I saw you guys. And once again, our bands do a show together. It's at the Castle Royale. It's a Spike 1000 with guests Brackett and Mento Buru. And it's May 27th, 1994. And Castle Royale no longer exists.
No longer.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's too bad.
Yeah, that's all gone. I mean, that place saw a lot of, Deftones played there, KORN, the
Yep.
Cadillac Tramps, Sick of It All.
Yep.
I mean, we saw some of the best times, the best shows of like our young lives there. It was wild. So I remember it was one of those Tim Gardea shows. And
Yeah.
Yeah, you remember the whole Tim Gardea thing.
Spilt Milk. Was it
Yeah.
Spilt Milk Productions?
Spilt Milk Productions. And so we were all on there. And I remember, okay, so that was the third time. You guys are still kicking ass. It's the band that we knew. Bill, Jeff, Mike, you. Okay. Now we'll get to the fourth and final time I saw you later. But then there's a big gap. Like I said, Spike 1000 becomes a Bay Area band. You're definitely no longer in Bakersfield anymore. Now, you tell me a little bit about kind of like how when you arrive and you go to Oakland and you kind of, every band has to go through those kind of like serious struggling period. But I know things got really good for you in San Francisco. Kind of, what was that whole San Francisco period like?
Oh man, that could be a whole another hour, but I'll keep it short and sweet. So moving to Oakland, into the place we were at, we all got jobs except for Bill got a job in Alameda. We all got jobs in San Francisco. So we had to learn how to navigate within Oakland in a pretty dangerous part of town where at night you heard gunshots and you watch your P's and Q's. But we all learned how to ride the transit system. We all got familiar with what it was like in the downtown San Francisco music scene, the clubs, and we just started trying to book shows. You make flyers and you go out and you promote yourself, and you just walk the streets for sure promoting yourself. You make stickers, you put them everywhere, you go and you try to meet people. And I think the first club that we got a really good break at was called the Brave New World. A gal by the name of Caldonia Carlisle used to book shows, and she used to do sound. And at that point, my older brother was managing us and doing our sound. And so when we played at the Brave New World, Stars Aligned, Caldonia knew so many people in the music scene, and she really liked us and believed in us. And so she kind of took us under her wing, introduced us to a lot of people. Her and my brother actually got together as a couple, and they're still together.
And what's your brother's name?
Thomas Harris. We just played as much as we could. We rehearsed at least 4 nights a week after work. We rehearse, and then we play on the weekends. And then you go flyer before your shows, and you put up stickers everywhere. And my brother had really good ideas about doing things visually to make things stand out. So we tried different cool stuff, and we started getting a decent following out there and played some really, really good shows and met some amazing musicians as well. And we did it for a long time till we got signed.
You can go online and you could look up Spike 1000 San Francisco, and you'll find like some archival footage of shows around there. Did you guys play at Slim's? I mean, there's those
Yeah.
places that are kind of well known.
Slim's, yeah, we played at Slim's. We played at Great American Music Hall, Transmission Theater, which is unfortunately no longer there.
Mm-hmm.
We got to play at the Fillmore once,
Wow.
which was an amazing experience. Yeah, there were so many good clubs back in the day. Unfortunately, a lot of them are not there anymore.
Now the sound of Spike 1000 at this time, and you guys are definitely coming into the heavy. When did you guys really start moving towards the heavy sound of Spike 1000?
I would have to say that Bill and Jeff and Mike had always come from a hard rock side of things.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of awoke that little creature in me that would put my head between the speakers and a blanket over it and turn it up past 11, right?
Yeah.
It totally awoke a fire in me. And, they always were inspired by bands like Helmet, Handsome, and Quicksand, and, 311, Smashing Pumpkins, Living Color. I remember for me, and I can't speak for guys in the band, but for me, we went on tour once. We had this big crazy bus that was painted. It got painted in Bakersfield. I don't know if you ever saw that, Matt. Did you see that big crazy bus?
The school bus?
Yeah, the school bus,
Yeah.
where the really awesome tagger Rasta. He spray painted all that. But anyway, we took that bus on a really small tour up to the Pacific Northwest, and we were in Eugene, Oregon, and we were opening up for a band called Stompbox.
Mm-hmm.
I think we had missed their sound check, and I remember the first song starting. And I was standing kind of next to Bill and Jeff, and all of a sudden I see Bill and Jeff just lose their shit, dude. They had beers in their hand and they're jumping up and down. And I think that they were able to kind of make a connection with that just raw, gritty riff that just makes you want to punch people in the face.
Yeah.
And at that point, I think things kind of started turning to where Jeff and Bill were the major music writers, right?
Mm-hmm.
They would write riffs, and Bill would write riffs, and Jeff would play off of them, and then I would come in with melody and lyrics, right? And then Mike would bring in what he thought he would want to play on bass. So it was at that point that I think we turned the corner to that type of music.
The term nu metal ended up just kind of happening, but like, were you playing amongst other bands that were like just playing really heavy, or were you playing with bands that sounded like the old Spike 1000?
It was a mixture. We played with bands that sounded like old Spike 1000. For instance, a band called Flower SF, that had a girl singer too. But then we would play with bands that would come from out of town, a band called Tree from Oregon, that were just like, they were a mesh of punk and the grit that like a Helmet. And there were San Francisco, eclectic place. There were so many different types of bands, and we played with all kinds of different bands.
Okay, cute. You guys are awful cute. Where do we get all these beautiful women? Oh, Mama. We're Spike 1000, and we're very glad to be here to support the other bands we're with. Make sure you stay here for Sayers, because they rock! Jesus Christ, this drum set's amazing!
Right. So we played with Merv, which was, you can't put a label on the band Merv if you've ever heard them. And we played with Death Angel before,
Wow.
So
what about any of like, because I mean the Bay Area is not, but you got, well, of course you had Metallica, but then you also had like Primus and Mr. Bungle and Faith No More, and you had all those. Did you guys cross paths with them during those early years? Pre getting signed?
I wish.
Oh no! So you guys were definitely down in the trenches with everybody else. And was there a lot more? There's a lot more women on stage too, or were you still one of the one or the two?
No. There was definitely a lot more women on stage.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I mean, we played a show at Brave New World with a band called Blind Tom, and girl singer that at first I was kind of like hey, who is this bitch? Why is she singing? Because she was amazing. Her sound check was incredible. I'm like, God damn it. What the shit? And so, but we ended up working at the same company, me and this girl, sitting at the same, like the desk next, and we didn't know each other.
Oh my God.
And we found out, oh my gosh, you're in that band. Oh yeah, we play together. And we've been best friends ever since. And she's still singing in the Bay Area, and she's still amazing. Yeah, there were a lot more other female fronted bands, but none that kind of went in the genre that we did. And I faced that a lot when we were approached from the record company. You know, they would say, we don't know what to do with you.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah, no. And I want to get to that, but you know, at this time also, okay, so KORN is already kind of having their moment. They're already starting to blow up. And so everybody's looking at Bakersfield. I mean, were you guys having any contact with KORN or anybody still after everybody had left Bakersfield? I mean, because Radio Rain Dance, you can trace, you know, one of Jonathan's big coming out moments was when he sat in with Cradle of Thorns, and Sex Art was barely starting to form. So he was just kind of barely forming at that time. But after he left and KORN starts taking off, you guys are in San Francisco. Were you guys staying in touch? Because you guys have to have been friends, right?
Well, yeah. Well, of course. I mean, Mike was friends with all the boys in KORN, and then the guy I was dating at the time that was one of Mike's best friends, Danny Hamilton. He was very close to the boys in KORN, and so yeah, they definitely communicated with each other. But also, you have to remember there was the stigma of us being a hippie band, and you know, I also think that kind of colored the vision of who we are, maybe in KORN's eyes. I don't know. You know, I've never asked them personally, but still, yeah, the communication was really good between Mike and Danny and KORN.
But you guys weren't like, hey, you guys are gonna, you know, I mean, because you can kind of see how, you know, Cradle of Thorns and the video drone thing and all that kind of happened. But you guys were all the way over there in San Francisco. I mean, you're in the Bay. You guys' name is starting to build up. Bakersfield, at the same time, is starting to get the reputation of being the next Seattle, which I always thought was hilarious because I'm like, you know, are you sure? I mean, no, that's not happening. I mean, but it kind of stems from the reputation that some of the bands, of course, KORN. So they're thinking of KORN, and then, you know, you just see the bands that are kind of like trailing just right behind KORN. You've seen Cradle of Thorns, and then you've seen you guys, and then it just kind of stops there, really. But at what point did you start seeing the real interest from labels in the Bay?
There weren't a lot of labels, Matt. It was maybe two labels that showed interest, and it wasn't until, when did we get signed? I think we were signed, I want to say late 1999.
So so there was no bidding war over you guys? It just kind of like, how did that happen? Like,
no.
Were you guys actively pursuing it, or somebody show up at a show and hand you a card and say, hey, I want to sign you guys? Like, how did that happen?
So, you know, when you have your day job, you're also trying to promote yourself. So I was always trying to, you know, find out if we should have a manager or what next step we should take.
Yeah.
And then we were able to get a manager that fit our needs at that time, and get in front of people that we needed to get in front of. There was no bidding war. It was just a label that was interested in us and wanted to sign us. And we were, okay, so you have to think, if we started back close to 88 and this is 99, we're thinking, shit, this is now or never, right?
Yeah.
So we just, you know, jumped at the opportunity to do it, and we're, you know, hoping for the best. And that's what, you know, we were so excited to think that we were going to be able to go and record an album, even though we had already, you know, been exposed to different studios in San Francisco, which was an amazing experience in and of itself. And I wish I could go back to those moments. You know, we thought now that if we were signed with a major label, now maybe people could hear it en masse, right? And we could see if there was real value in the music that we absolutely loved, and we thought that other people would enjoy it too.
Yeah, because you guys did some EPs. You had, of course, you had the debut EP, and then you had two other releases. which I do own, and I know I have them here. I have them in like my collection of like the stuff I need to save that I've had with me. And there's the one with like looks like a chrome bumper or something like that.
It's a scooter. Yeah, it's a scooter. That was the EP.
Mhm.
That was the EP.
And then there's the other one that has a car on it. There's another one that has a car too.
Yeah. And the one that has a car on it that has the Golden Gate Bridge in the back, that was the one that was released in Japan.
Wow. Was that on the label?
Yeah.
How did they find you?
They found us through our manager that we were working with at the time. And so we just got a distribution deal. It wasn't on a label. It was just, we released it ourselves, and it was released in Japan. And I still think that we recorded it at Brilliant Studios, same studio where Angel Dust was recorded. So we really like this album.
Yeah.
All of us still do, because it's the raw version of Waste of Skin.
Yeah. No, I definitely see that. Were you guys touring at all, or was it just mostly a San Francisco thing? And I'm talking about we're not to getting signed yet. When you guys are in San Francisco, you guys are do the Scooter album, the Scooter EP, and then the other album that you really love, the Japan. Were you guys touring at all, or was it you guys still staying mostly in the Bay?
We would go down to LA. I know we went to Tahoe. I know we went to Reno. I think not very far though from the Bay Area. It wasn't until we got signed and got money to support that we toured the States.
Yeah. Okay. So let's jump right into getting signed. So you signed to Columbia Records, which is an interesting label, because I don't know if Columbia was really known for a lot of heavy acts at the time. It just seems like at that moment, the labels that were signing a lot of the heavier acts, like when KORN is getting signed to Immortal, and I think it was Immortal. They were all the kind of the subsidiaries of the major labels. So it wasn't like Warner Brothers would be the one to sign KORN. It would be one of their subsidiaries that was kind of like, oh, this is where the punk bands get signed, or this is where the metal bands get signed and stuff like that. So when I saw you guys were signed to Columbia Records, I always thought that was interesting, because you think of Columbia Records, you think of like a lot of jazz and, country, and you think of like a lot of the classic releases. So you guys get signed to Columbia Records. Where did you guys record Waste of Skin?
We recorded Waste of Skin in Nashville, Tennessee on Music Row. Well, we did pre-production in a storage unit, actually, in Nashville.
Really?
Well, yeah, we did pre-production in a storage unit where we got our songs tight. And then we moved to a very small studio where we honed everything in. And then after that, we moved into the big studio where we actually did the recording.
I think Johnny Cash was on Columbia Records too. That's what I was saying. How did you guys end up in Nashville?
Well,
of all places?
This was a boutique label too. That was John Kolodner, who was involved with Aerosmith for years. He started this little boutique side label that was an arm of Columbia.
Okay. And
it was him and his AR guys that wanted to sign us.
What was the name of the label?
Shit, I wish I could remember. Where's the CD?
It's a subsidiary. Columbia Records is not going to sign you, but we're not going to allow you to put the Columbia Records stamp entirely, but it's going to be this. I got it. Okay, so you guys are in Nashville. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Yeah. How long did it take you to record that record?
We were over there, I think, for at least 3 months.
Wow.
Yeah, the label put us up in temporary apartments. We worked with a really good producer by the name of Malcolm Springer, and we worked in several different studios. So yeah, I think it was around 3 months. And then we did post-production at a very small studio where we added bits and pieces. And then it got mixed by Brendan O'Brien, who's out of Atlanta, who did like Stone Temple Pilots and Pearl Jam and other bands, amazing bands.
And most of the songs are from the earlier releases. Is it the entire record before that, or is it just was there new songs mixed in with it? Because I know there's like you have the songs that have bounced around, "Make Me Suffer" and "Man Whore," which are kind of like the singles, and those are the songs that everybody knows from the group.
They're all just different versions of the album we released in Japan. They morphed into. So if you take the album from Japan,
Okay.
that's Spike 1000. If you take Waste of Skin, that's Spike 1000 and Malcolm Springer. Because we didn't really have a producer with the album, Spike 1000 Prime album.
Okay.
It was us with a manager who was trying to produce us and give us ideas, but we were very stubborn and steadfast back then. And then once we got signed and started working with Malcolm, he had a lot of different ideas, and the songs definitely changed. So yeah, it's interesting to listen to the differences between the two.
Now the blind guitar lick on "Man Whore," was that intentional?
Yes.
Yeah. Whose idea was it to do that?
I'm sure it was Bill and Malcolm's.
Now, I mean, like at this time, like KORN's doing their thing, and you guys are also a band from Bakersfield that kind of like almost have the same. I mean, you kind of have similar roots. Did that kind of follow you guys around a lot? Like, oh, hey, what do you think about KORN happening? And you guys are over here doing this thing. Like, how come they're not hooking you up? Were people asking you a lot about that, or were you guys deep down inside, wow, I wish kind of KORN would give us a little bump over here? Or did you guys get any bump from them?
Well, yeah, absolutely. KORN did absolutely help us. I mean, they gave us an opening slot when they played the Oakland Arena. I don't remember when it was. We got to open, and then they gave us, I don't know how many shows on Family Values. We got to go on at least 6 or 7 opening on one of the Family Values tours. Absolutely. They definitely tried to give us a leg up. But you're gonna, if you ask different people in the band, they're gonna give you different answers. If you want my answer, is that I always had a deep respect for the boys in KORN. I went to high school with James and Brian, and such nice guys, incredibly nice, and always very kind to me. I have a hard time with fame. I'm not someone who would, sure, I'll get starry-eyed, but I always like to stand back and give people their space. And especially when it comes to people that are famous. When KORN started getting way more popular, I remember there was a point where we were playing the Coconut Teaser in LA, and I think James came out to see us, and I gave him a hug, and I said, how are you? Are you happy about what's going on? And that's all I really wanted. I want people to be happy in their space and where they're at. So if you're asking me, I always wanted to give KORN their space. They had their own world. They had their own vision and direction. I don't necessarily know if ours would meld. Maybe today, I mean, because they play with Evanescence. I think it might be a good combination, but I would never expect that, and I would never ask for it, because maybe I have too much pride, and maybe I'm too humble, and maybe I want to show respect.
Mm-hmm. And I've always wanted to know about that, and I think a lot of people will appreciate you sharing that with them. So thank you so much for that. Now, Waste of Skin now was released on September 11th, 2001.
Great day, huh?
Wow. The day the Twin Towers were attacked. I mean, there was a lot of, you weren't the only kind of big debut or, release of that day. I mean, it was just a horrible day. It was a bad day. You can't say it anyway. But there was a lot of people that they were counting the days for their big moment that is going to happen. I mean, have people asked you, do you see that as a bad omen? I have my friends in Ozo Motley, and I know some of the guys in Long Beach Dub All-Stars. All 3 of the bands, Ozo Motley, Long Beach Dub All-Stars, Spike 1000, you all released a very important album in your discography on that same day. And if you were to ask them what they were doing the day that album released, when I asked Ozo Motley, what were you guys doing? He goes, we were on the road, like in Denver. We didn't know where we were supposed to go because we were afraid like the entire nation is going to get attacked.
Oh, wow.
We were waiting for the album to come out. But what were you guys doing that day? You guys are waiting for your big album to drop, and then everything changes. What was happening with the members of Spike 1000 on September 11th?
Well, we weren't together. I was actually at my folks' house up in the mountains, and I went to bed thinking, tomorrow, things are going to change. And when I woke up and I heard the news, I just knew that it was going to be an uphill battle, if anything, if we could get anywhere with the album. And so it was brutal. It was like losing my arm, because we had put so much effort and time and love and hate and sweat and tears into the music, and it was devastating.
I could just imagine. Who was the first person in the band that you spoke to after you saw that go down? What's the first thing that you do as far as in relation to the other members of the band?
I think the first band member I talked to was Bill, and I believe he was up in San Francisco. You know, you could hear the pain in his voice, because you've been punched not only in the stomach, you've been punched in the heart, and you've been punched in the head, and you feel like, you know, where do we go from here? So yeah, just really tough time. And then of course the calls from our then manager at the time, and then you just kind of go, okay, so what's the plan? What are we going to do? And then you start hearing the radio stations aren't playing certain songs, you know, because they're going to offend, quote unquote, offend people or make them upset because of the situation. And our first single that was supposed to be released was Make Me Suffer. So it was, and apparently the numbers didn't do well.
Oh, I felt so bad. Definitely it happened to you, but a lot happened to a lot of artists. Any sort of creative person or unit out there that was maybe doing something a little bit aggressive at the time. Record companies and entertainment businesses started to get a little bit shy about that. But how much promotion did the label do for the record after that? Did you guys have a big budget and everything planned, and they just cut everything, or did you guys have like a moderate budget for the promotion and marketing of the album?
So here's where I think our manager at the time made a huge mistake. We had already toured states 3 times, not all of them, but we had been on 3 different tours, and, you know, supporting bands like Head PE. We were out with Nonpoint as well. They were on the bill. Stereo Mud. There was another one, but we were playing the album already before it was released. I think that we should have released earlier. I mean, they were giving us promotion materials when we're out on the road, right?
Yeah.
You've got little teaser CDs, you've got posters, you've got little, all kinds of stuff. You know, we're selling merchandise and whatnot, and the kids were loving it. I remember playing in Oklahoma, of all places. Went out on stage, and the kids up front already knew the words to the songs. I'm going, this is fucking awesome. This is great. You know, there's not even an album out, but they know the words to the song. How does this happen? And so once 9/11 happened and our single didn't test well, or maybe the radio stations wouldn't play it, or I have no idea what happened. It kind of, there was a black hole, and no one would talk to us, and there weren't any plans for a tour. And it was just, it was so hard because we didn't know what was happening. I guess, I don't know when it was, a couple of months later, we got a call that we didn't sell enough units and we were being dropped. And then our manager called and said, yeah, you guys are dropped, so, you know, you don't need me, so I'm not going to be working with you anymore. And then our lawyer called and said, sorry, you know, this isn't happening, so bye.
Wow. The sad realities of major labels and that whole thing. Like, bands work for that stuff all the time. Yeah. But I just want to look at that record, like the cover art. I thought that was a very interesting cover, and the name of the album, Waste of Skin, and the cover art. I was like looking at the guy. I was like, I wonder if this is a member of the band. And I said, it kind of looks like Nick Cave. Kind of looks like Nick Cave, like Scanners, like he's ready to explode, or he's tweaking out.
Yeah,
he's like a zombie Nick Cave.
Yeah.
Or he could be Dickie Barrett from the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones. It could be one of those two. But then, you know, the photo with the back tattoo of the Beatles, you. Now, where did you get that? Where'd you get that tattoo done at?
It was done at a tattoo shop that's no longer, I don't think it's there anymore. It's San Francisco, a place called Goldfield, down on Broadway.
How long did it take you to get that work done?
That took, and mind you, this is my first tattoo that I ever got. I think it was 5 sessions, about 3 hours a session.
Oh my God.
I think. Yeah.
Pain, but looks amazing.
Yeah.
But people ask you, is that yours? Can I see it? You know, what does your daughter think of it? What does your daughter think of the tattoo? She want one like it?
I hope not. Not that big. Geez. My daughter's 17. What do you think she thinks about it? What do 17-year-olds always think about their moms? They're annoying.
but she's got a really cool mom though.
All right. Let me record that so she can hear you say that.
You hear that? Your mom's very cool. Okay. So, sadly you guys go through this, but however, around this time when we started here, like here in Bakersfield, we don't know all this stuff is going on with you guys. We don't know anything that have any sort of label troubles or anything like that. As far as Bakersfield is concerned, Spike 1000 is blowing up. You guys are blowing up huge. We're starting to hear the song. Crab Radio is doing really well. And so they're starting
Danny Spanks.
Yeah, Danny Spanks is playing Make Me Suffer. And so you would hear
Make me suffer every day. If I make it seem my own, not yours, would you see through me? So full of apologies that I'm dragging on my knees. You make a path to trick yourself and grab a simple life. In a space of fear, I see myself there have to be inside. You bring me down to the obvious with your washed out eyes.
Now, this comes to the fourth and the final time that I saw you guys live. I saw you guys live at Rock and Rodeo, and you guys had opened up for another Bakersfield band. Adema. Now, their album came out exactly it was like a month before yours. You guys had like a gap. Yeah, I think that their album came out like in August of 2001, and then you guys came out in September of 2001. And that was the version of Spike 1000 is the one that everyone remembers the most because, you had the sound, you had the singles. I mean, at that time, was that one of your first homecoming shows in, years? Right?
Yeah.
Did you guys like coming home to perform?
Absolutely. It was great. Because we had honed our craft so much from, playing on tours. We just knew when we got up on that stage that we were going to, blow everyone's face away because we were ready. And everything that had done and were doing on stage was second skin, right? We could just go, and it was awesome to see the reaction and to be able to come back and play for Bakersfield.
You guys came home like heroes to us because I was like, wow, you had KORN's already blowing up. It was KORN, Spike 1000, and then Adema. They would say Orgy, but it was mostly because of Ryan's association with the group. But, they were just kind of always connected to Bakersfield. But it's like they had kind of like such a brief moment, but they had it so big because of that Blue Mondays single was so huge. We always were over here on the sidelines cheering for Spike 1000 and then I remember seeing Bill, it was just like, the band was a completely different group. I had not seen you guys since those early years and to hear the song, and I was like, wow, man. This song, you put those headphones on, man, the production of the bass and the drums and the guitar, everything just sounds so chunky and meaty, and like there was riffs in there and everything like that, and it just seems like everything was where it was supposed to be. So I thought for sure, well, Adema, of course, has their own story, and they're still out there, finally back together. But they have Ryan Shuck, is formerly of Orgy, is now their singer. But Mikey, who was the singer for Adema?
I don't remember his name. It was
Mark,
one of Jonathan's relatives.
Mike Ransom, Mikey, who was in our band before he joined Adema. He was our guitar player. So it's real funny because he was our sax player before he became our guitar player. Well, Bakersfield pool of musicians is not very big, so everybody had to learn to play a lot of different instruments and play a lot of different music until they kind of fell into the band that they were going to. So we were all cheering for you guys, and then we're hearing the songs, and then we don't really hear anything, and then the band's gone. Spike 1000 is like, we're just done. But we kind of have to find that out through kind of like second, third hand news, because it's not like we were getting Instagram and Facebook messages like, hey, did you hear?
Right.
Or tweets. When did the band officially break up and what happened?
I don't remember the exact date. I just remember Jeff giving me a call and saying, I'm done. I was like, oh, okay. I talked to Mike and Bill, and we decided we were going to try and carry on. So we tried out other drummers and we kept going, and we actually got together with one of our buddies in a band called The Blue, who was a lead singer, guitar player, and also a drummer. And he started drumming, and we actually wrote 3 new songs and recorded them. It was never, released anywhere, but we did that, a little 3-songer. And then you start, I think Mike had a baby and he moved out of town. So you start, the adult part responsibility starts taking over, and then you start realizing that you need to kind of focus on trying to make a little bit more money so you don't have to live paycheck from paycheck, and you don't have to worry so much about what you're going to eat. So gosh, it must have been about 2003 or 4 that we decided, yeah, we're done.
How did you make the announcement? Did you put it on your website, thanks, and do all that stuff, or it was just disappeared?
Nope, just disappear.
Do you remember the last show you guys played together as that Spike 1000?
The Spike 1000 with Jeff?
Yeah, like as the official Spike 1000.
I don't remember the last show we played with Jeff. I remember the last show we played with our buddy Dan, the last show, like, Spike 1000.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't remember the last show with Jeff.
So you guys never got approached by any of the labels after that? It was just, once it was over, it was over?
Yeah.
Oh,
it was over.
So sad. But you know what?
I know.
But here's the thing. There's a big why. And and it's just kind of the nature of the business. It's a very shitty business. Bands work their whole lives. You guys obviously put so much work and heart and soul and sacrifice into it. And you guys obviously have a lot to be proud of. I mean, there's a lot of things that you guys experience that a lot of bands will never have. A lot of artists will never have those experiences. It's very unique. I mean, you guys got to do Family Values Tour.
Yeah.
You're playing with, Stone Temple Pilots, Linkin Park, Static X, and, all that stuff. And lots of memories. You guys have obviously survived. You guys are all still alive, thankfully. Thank God. But this was always the big thing that I would see is Evanescence releases their album 2003, which is the time that Spike 1000 should already be on their second album. You guys should already be on on your sophomore album. Evanescence releases their debut in 2003. It puzzles me, and it still does now when I listen to both those records, is that how your voice, your presence, and the lyrics were not given the same treatment by Columbia to get you out there more. And I know the whole 9/11 thing, we can, point to that. The suit and tie nerd saying, man, horror, huh? Well, a bunch of industry suits taking a vote to push you guys out. But still, Evanescence was, they were right on they just kind of came on your coattails. And I was just like, God damn, it should have been Spike 1000. Shannon should be out there. Shannon is better singer than Amy from Evanescence. She's got more range. She could belt it out, man. She could destroy men up on stage with her voice. And it just really puzzled me. But when you see that happening, and I want you to be honest with me, but what are you thinking when you see Evanescence comes out and you guys had already called it quits, but then this band comes out of kind of nowhere to me. I didn't know who they were, but all of a sudden just kind of comes out and just fucking is all over MTV, all that shit. It should have been you. You guys, are you seeing that? And what is your reaction?
Yeah, I'm seeing it. It was very hard for me to see, because when we were in talks about taking pictures I'll just tell you this little story. We were talking about taking pictures for the inside of the album, and they had people fly out to help us buy clothes and to do makeup, and it was just kind of ridiculous. And they wanted me to dress a certain way and to wear clothes that basically would make me look like a sex symbol. Mm-hmm. And it was just, I remember Bill and Jeff looking at me and going, do you really want to do this? And I'm like, no, I don't. And because, it's almost like we have this uphill battle with the label constantly from the beginning. And like I said, a while back, I said, they go, we don't know what to do with you, because why? I'm not putting, halter top on with thigh-high leather boots and hot pants. You don't know what to do with me? Why don't you just listen to the music and let the music do the talking? Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter what we look like. Just listen to the music and watch us play live. That's all that matters. And I don't think they understood that. And I think they were a little scared because I was a woman. And maybe, you know, maybe when we were touring and the AR guy was out with us, he would see some of the battles that I would go up against when it came to facing male audience members and what they would say to me and what I would say back. You know, I thought it was hilarious and I loved the banter and I welcomed it and like, I'm ready, come up here, I'll beat your ass, dude, I'll kick you in the balls, let's do it. But I just don't think this label knew what to do with us, and it's too bad because you know, you're absolutely on point, Matt, when you talk about Evanescence being on our coattails. I do feel like we were right there at the right time and it should have happened.
It's really sad to think about that because as a fellow musician, of course we want these things, we're chasing these things, and then we see our friends that were right there at those times, and you know, just kind of somebody just kind of creeps up right around and just kind of like steals everything that you kind of broke ground for. Like you broke a lot of ground for them, and I think you as an artist, as a presence, haven't really got your just due. And not just in Bakersfield. I could say, well, yeah, you're definitely a member of our scene here. You'll always be a member of the Bakersfield music scene. But I'm talking about on a national level, on a global level, because at that time there was Kitty, who was the metal band at the time. So Kitty was doing well.
For sure.
But other than that, it was just you. There was just you, and I couldn't even tell you anybody else. There was probably some other independent groups that were going on. You guys had worked so much. I don't want to focus on all that too much because there's a lot of things that are starting to happen now. And one thing that I'm starting to notice is that the album Waste of Skin, every once in a while, it gets revisited by music bloggers. It gets rediscovered. I listen to the metal podcast.
Yeah,
Roach Coach.
Uh-huh.
So, and that was actually from a few years, and I was listening to it, and the show's three hosts were they broke down the album song by song with some humor, and to them, it was like they were admitting that this is one of those albums that just kind of got past them, and so they were just kind of like, you know, had the label done the promotion that they were supposed to, people would have picked up on it. And I remember the female host on their co-host, she had said, yeah, this is one of those albums that you saw in the bins, like, it was kind of like in the bargain bin, but nobody knew who they were. I remember going to Amoeba Music and I saw, you know, like it was one of those things where after Green Day, Dookie had gotten so big that everybody and their mother owned a copy of Green Day, Dookie. At some point, you would go to Amoeba and you just saw fucking rows and rows of Dookie used. Everybody had sold their copies of Dookie.
Right.
But then 10 years later, everybody goes back, rediscovers those albums, picks them up. Now Dookie is, you know, resurgence, Green Day's back and all that stuff. So I think what's kind of happening now, and this will happen, and hopefully it does happen, is that through some of these music bloggers, and also you mentioned the
New Metal Reddit is one of them.
New Metal
Reddit, and then Holiday Kirk. He doesn't have a blog per se, but he's the one that has the listing of the 50 best new metal albums. Yeah.
And one of the things that they always say is they point out the strength of your voice, and they were blown away that it was a woman. I remember on the Roach Coach one, they were like, I thought it was a guy, because you weren't used to hearing women's voices this powerful at that time. You just weren't. No. You know. And then when Evanescence comes out, she comes out really, and she doesn't really do any of the big fucking ballsy, you know, all that stuff. But you had all that. You could sing melodic and soft and gentle, and then you could just kind of put out the roar. But, you know, and then the most recent mention was in the Holiday Kirk top 50 greatest new metals of all time. And that was great. I thought that was probably one of the most complimentary, and somebody who got it not only as a music fan, as a metal music fan, a new metal music fan, but as somebody who had actually taken the time to kind of see and take the album apart layer by layer and see that there was something in there. And myself, as somebody who's followed the band all these years through your formation, I get it. You guys might have that opportunity to get rediscovered. And I do hope that, you know, something does happen for you. I mean, we always hope that for our friends, but I definitely hope that in this situation. Now, let me ask you this. Do you guys ever get hit up for a reunion?
Yeah, we do. And I'm very close to Bill. We had a daughter together. We're not together anymore, but we had a daughter together, and I'm very close to Mike. And, but we lost touch with Jeff. Haven't talked to him in years and years, but, we have talked about trying to get back together just to be able to play some songs. And what's devastating is back in, must have been like 2006 when Bill was, he was playing music with our buddy Dan, who used to play drums with us after Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
And the rehearsal studio that they were in burned to the ground. So Bill lost all of his gear, everything, which was, that's huge for a guitar player, especially Bill, because he loves gear and he had so much stuff. But past couple years, I think like 3 years, he's been building his rig back up, and he expressed interest in maybe, finding a little rehearsal space and getting together and trying to play some songs and maybe write some new songs. And for my birthday last year, him and his girlfriend actually bought me a brand new Sennheiser microphone. So, there's hope. We're all real busy though. And so it's hard to carve out time for that. But if we really want to, Matt, we will.
Well, I mean, there are all these reunions. Like, look there's the When We Were Young festival, and you get Paramore, and everybody's getting back together. All these bands are playing all that stuff. And then there's all those huge metal festivals that are going on. I mean, metal and new metal are one of those. There's those genres that will always be popular. There's always going to be somebody who's going to love them. And it seems like Spike 1000 is the only band that has not taken advantage of this opportunity to jump right back into that. There's no reason why you guys shouldn't, unless you guys can't keep up with that, or maybe deep down inside, maybe it's something that the band doesn't really want to do. But if you guys really want to jump on that opportunity, I think there's never been a better time than now to do it. So hopefully you guys do jump onto that, because myself is following all these festivals and still seeing KORN out there doing it. I mean, if Edema can go through all the changes that they've gone through, I mean,
right.
And you guys had a really tight unit. The songs, you could put on Waste of Skin now, and it could fall in line with Limp Bizkit or any of the bands that went on just huge success. You could put it right there along with them. Before we close this up, there's a lot of cool VHS footage from the live shows. I saw there was one of the San Francisco shows, and like Bill's playing a cigarette hanging out of his mouth, and music videos, and you got, like the ones you guys would like make yourselves, and like the camcorder ones, and then there's like a cable access show of you guys like backstage somewhere. And
reality check.
Yeah. So like, if your music fans out there are fans of Spike 1000 that find their ways to the podcast, all you have to do is go on YouTube, and they probably already found them, because that's what it was for me. It was as easy as that. If you're curious about whatever happened to one of your favorite bands, all you have to do is go on YouTube, and chances are you're going to find it. But hopefully we will get that reunion. I think it would be really good for you, because how are you feeling? Are you doing any music now? Are you doing any singing? Have you kept your pipes going?
I still sing for myself when I'm working, because I work from home. So of course I still sing because it makes me very happy. But as far as any other music, no. I've been approached once, but that was from someone in the Bay Area, and I just can't. It's really hard right now to get over there and to, like I said, carve out the time, especially when you have a teenager who's going to graduate from high school soon. It's a lot.
Yeah. Have you ever done like showed up and done karaoke to like Make Me Suffer or Man Whore or anything like that? Have you ever done?
No, I
don't.
I don't even think that they would have that at karaoke. Spike 1000 at a karaoke? I've never seen it. If I ever went to a karaoke bar and I saw the choice to sing a Spike 1000 song, hell yeah, I would sing it.
That would be amazing.
I would love it.
That would be amazing. And I bet you everybody would know, that's her. It's got to be her, because nobody else can sing like that. That's so wild. So what does your daughter think of like of the album? Of your musical past, and her father's past? Like what does she think of her parents' musical past?
I think she really enjoys it. She's very musical herself, and we've never pushed any type of music on her. We've let her discover what she likes for herself. But she has all of her Spotify playlists, and there's one playlist where our songs are melded in with Deftones, KORN, Soundgarden, Kitty, and I think that right now I don't think she really asks a lot of questions. I think that as she gets older, and maybe, fingers crossed, if we ever are able to do a reunion show and she gets to see what it really is like live, I think maybe she'll start asking more questions. But I think she has the respect for us, for our musical background.
Well,
Yeah,
she's
for sure.
she's obviously inherited a lot of musical genes.
Yeah.
It's pretty strong. She's pretty strong. Maybe
Yeah.
something's just going to snap and it's just going to come out of her. Well, before we wrap this up, and I do thank you for being so candid and all this. And it's one of those things I've been wanting to do for a while. And I know, like, to get the full story, we would have to have everybody together. So for the other members that could not join us, maybe we'll reconnect later down the line. But I really wanted to speak to Shannon because this was definitely my own personal experience with Spike 1000. So I wanted to make that clear as how I discovered the band and how I crossed paths with Bill during our time together. But I was always curious as to what had ever happened to you guys. And I think one of the best things to know is that you guys are still okay. Like, everybody's doing okay in their own lives. So when you talk about a potential for a reunion, I think it just comes down to when you have time. It's not because of anything else. So maybe time will be on your side and we will see a Spike 1000 reunion, and you get that long overdue recognition that I think the band has deserved.
I hope so.
Yeah,
Thanks, Matt. This has been really awesome to talk about and bring up a lot of memories. It's been really cool.
Yeah, and thank you so much. Now, if people want to find you, if you're comfortable with this and offer you lots of money to reunite, how should they do that?
Me personally, if they want to find me, I'm on Instagram, and I think I'm Spiky Slide on Instagram.
Yeah, Spiky Slide. Yeah. And I'll post that up on the Bakotunes. Well, you'll see it. You hopefully, everybody out there listening, share this with your friends if you're curious. Whatever happened to Spike 1000, spread it far and wide. And I know a lot of our homies here in Bakersfield are going to be sharing it, and they're going to be very happy to know that the band is still doing good. And I know they're going to share, because if you bring up, like I said, if you were there in those 90s tunes and those kind of premium times that our bands were starting out, when like you could actually get a band together and have like a huge fan base, and it all came down to everybody at those shows were fans because they had to find out through word of mouth to be at those shows. I'm going to bring up that I'm going to be releasing a podcast interview with Shannon Harris. The Bakersfield music scene and all the homies are going to be very, very excited, and they're gonna share it and share their story. So hopefully, like, in the comment section, and everybody's gonna send messages to me if there's anything that I missed. Of course, I'm gonna miss something, because you can't possibly tell the entire story. But if we can get people to remember these bands, and if you can go on eBay and find a copy of Wasted Skin or some of the earlier ones, because you can go to Discogs if you're a music historian, a music collector, you can go on Discogs and you can see that the first Spike 1000 EP that was released in 92, I think it's on sale for like $175 or something like that. Somebody's selling a copy. And I have actually burnt some of those, copied those for people when I was at the Bakersfield, California. I've actually burnt my original copy, because I would save all those. I'd save all those for years and years and years. And I have them in boxes because my wife says, you got to move some of these CDs out. We can't just have these CDs everywhere. But I've copied those, dubbed those CDs for many, many people who've always like, oh man, I was this huge Spike 1000 fan. And trust me, the band has a lot of fans out there. And maybe we'll, this podcast will contribute to getting you guys back together. And any way I can help, maybe you can give me some tickets to your reunion show at the Fillmore.
Absolutely. You know it.
Yeah. All right, Shannon.
I would expect you to be there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yes. And I know your voice is going to sound as amazing as ever. And I can still tell because your voice sounds so clean right now. I'm like, she obviously has been taking care of her voice. And it'll sound amazing. So, well, when you see Bill, tell Bill I said hello. See if he remembers me.
I will.
And
I will.
It's great to hear it, and tell your daughter that I said yes. Both your parents are very cool, and I was there to see it all happen. And thank you so much for being on the Bakotunes podcast, Shannon Harris.
You're very welcome, Matt. You take care.
Hey, you too.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Something like I thought you were dead. Could it get up and punch you in the fucking face. There was something that came to my head, something like I thought you were dead. Could it be I go to hell for thinking that? And I'm on the edge, little boy. You hide instead, little boy. You ask me if I am real, and I'm left explaining your fucked up deal. And I'm on the edge, little boy. You hide instead, little boy. You ask me if I am real, and I'm left explaining your fucked up deal.
The Bakotunes podcast with Matt Munoz. New episodes every week. And for the latest, be sure to follow us at Bakotunes on Instagram and Twitter. That's Bakotunes. And be sure to like us, rate us, comment at us, and don't forget to subscribe. We'll be back next time.
I remember the days of the Spike 1000 bus. Really? The Spike 1000 bus. There was a school bus. Shannon, you want to talk about the school bus?
What about the school bus?
Tell us about all the crazy times. I mean, you guys used to travel up here.
It broke down a lot, and it made me really mad when it broke down because then we had to try and fix it.
Used to give me rides home on the school bus.
That's right, because it was a school bus, and you were in school, and you're still in school, motherfucker.